Good day, Dr. Andy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How are you?
Well, good. We're starting our summer and it looks like the sun is shining.
Oh
And
God, I hope so. But with the weather going on everywhere in the country, it's really you just don't know what to predict.
yep. And which brings up to our topic. Why can't I stop loving you? That looks like a popular topic from your past
It,
articles.
it was very well received. Um, it's a tragic heartbreak. The people I've been with who have experienced this are broken, and trying to help them understand why they ended up this way in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, most relationships don't end by mutual agreement. Usually one person wants to leave. Occasionally people will agree to end a relationship, but it's not typical. So if the people have been together a very long time, of course, they're established all kinds of connections and friends and family and dogs and maybe kids and whatever. So that makes it much harder if one person wants to leave and people have been together for a long time. And especially if it's a surprise. People think everything's fine, or we're just going through a rough time, and then all of a sudden the person is gone, and that person is gone. They're not, "Oh, I want to leave, I should leave." They are gone. They even may ghost you. So there's no way to share the grief with them. You're not sharing the loss because you're grieving, but they do not appear to be. Now, sometimes they've moved on. They have a new person, or they've had an affair and they've left for that, which makes it even more difficult. But it's always incredibly painful because the past imprisons you because you can't let go. Maybe something will happen. Maybe they'll come back. And what if they come back and I'm not here? What if I go on and then they come back and I'm not there to receive them? What if I love somebody else and I can't love them again? So it leaves them totally and completely immobilized in their grief. And with all the memories without the person you shared them with or created them with, you still have all the memories. You still have all the mementos. You still have all the friends. It's awful to have to go through that kind of grief by yourself and sometimes not even know why that person left or what you may have done wrong. So what I try to tell people, there are 6 common reasons that people stay in what we call this pathological grief. Pathos is just a word meaning suffering. Pathological grief means you suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer. So the first reason is that you really believe that this relationship, this person was the one. All the ones you've known before, you were unsure, they didn't work out. But this one, you're absolutely positive. This is the person I've been looking for my whole life. You could be 20, you could be 60. It doesn't matter. It just feels like you've known each other in another lifetime. It just feels like it's what it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to have been all along. So you feel the sense of blessing. It's almost like it's been given to you by God. That's the way it feels. Everything checked out. All other relationships pale in comparison, and pale a lot. It's not that you've been in love and forgotten and in love and forgotten. This is the new, this is it. It's real, it's forever. And you both feel the same way. And in fact, your partner tells you over and over again that he or she feels the same exact unconditional love and devotion and safety. So every time you talk with each other, you reinforce the fact that you're the luckiest people in the world that have found each other. So this believing that the partner was the only one, and your partner, convincing you that you're not wrong. So you put your heart out there with everything you have. Maybe they weren't always faithful. Maybe they were just always having other relationships. Maybe they had other needs for other people. They just never shared them with you. But as far as you can understand, they felt the same way about you as you did about them. So there was no indication that there were any problems. So when that person leaves, you feel that like they've ripped something out of you, and you feel like you're bleeding to death, and you don't even know why or how. So I will tell you a little bit later in this podcast some of the means that people go to. Psychics, they buy love potions, they drive by and back and forth people's houses. They can't let go. They ask other people to please find out where they are they with someone. They can't. Now you're wondering, were you too optimistic? Were there warnings that you didn't pay attention to? Were you so blind? You start to feel stupid, to doubt yourself. Did you give away too much of you? You're confused. So along with your heartbrokenness, you can't get any closure because you don't understand why it happened. Do they even care how you feel? And then you ask the question, did they ever? Was I making all this up? You start to doubt to the core of your being. The second one is that you've put all your eggs in one basket. When you find this person, you let go of your friends, you let go of family, you focus 100%. This often happens when people are younger, but it also happens when people are older. They'll walk away from kids, from grandkids, from family. They have found this person in their life that they've always waited for their whole entire life. So they put all their eggs in one basket. They commit too fully, too soon, too completely. And as I said, they put everything else away. They make that relationship central to their life and think that their partner has done the same. So your friends and family think you went MIA. They think you're missing in action. So over time, they just stop calling you. They stop trying to connect with you. You're always with this person everywhere you go, and only this person. So what happens when that person leaves you, you have no support network. The people have all gone. And so there's nobody there to help you grieve. Or they've been wounded that you've offended them or rejected them or sent them away. So if you put all your eggs in one basket, when that basket breaks, there's nothing. There's nothing. That leads to that sense of incredible grief. The third reason is, this is a very interesting one. If you grow up with a mother or father or anyone of your nurturers that leaves often, and you don't know when they're coming back, sometimes it can be a legitimate reason. They travel in their job, but you don't know when they're coming back. It's inconsistent. Sometimes, your father and mother have a fight. Your dad leaves. He doesn't come back. Maybe he comes back in 3 days. Maybe he doesn't come back for a month or two. But you literally stand by that little window with your face pressed upon the glass, and you can't do anything else with your life but wait in hopes that that person will return. And so you get this inconsistent reinforcement. When they come back, it means the next time they go, you're back at that window pane again. You can't play, you can't go anywhere, you can't grow, you can't choose anything else because you might miss them coming back again. So if you had that as a child, where a parent left and came back, left and came back, you absolutely will do the same when your partner leaves you. I need to be still. I need to be watching through a window pane. I need to, maybe the phone rings, maybe there's a test that pings. Oh, that could be them. That could be them. That could be them. And you wait. You keep the phone by your bed. You keep it on your pillow. Any minute, maybe this will be the time they'll return. And if they did return when you were a child, of course, you're not going to give up waiting. You're going to keep waiting. The fourth one is hard for people. They were so deeply in love. They felt so wonderfully connected. They felt this incredible forever safety and sacredness. They don't want to give up feeling that way, but they feel that they are being lured over and over into pessimism or cynicism. Maybe I was stupid. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe these feelings of love and joy and happiness, and maybe they're all dumb. Maybe that's the way I was taught to believe. Maybe I'm a romantic idiot. But they begin to doubt themselves and start to feel that sort of cynicism. And then if they start dating again, they make every other new partner, they make them responsible for their brokenness. They'll test them and test them and test them and test them just to see if they can push them to go away, and they'll come back because they don't want to fall again and get wounded at the level they've been wounded. But as a result, they create self-fulfilling prophecies, which makes every other relationship again not work. And that double twin of cynicism and pessimism and what's the point? Love doesn't exist. That is it appears to be a safer place than waiting for love to come again. And they can so easily slip into that. And the more cynical and pessimistic people become, the harder it is for them to overcome the grief that they carry within them. So the fifth one is probably of all the most important. Grief is a way of holding on to a relationship. If you can't have a relationship, at least you can grieve. And so if people let go of grieving and they start to have more fun, they feel somehow the person is never going to come back. So they make that grief pathological. They deepen it. They ask themselves, they go over over. Could I have done anything wrong? What did I miss? What happened? And they peel the scab off over and over and bleed again, because the bleeding hurts less than the acceptance of the loss, of the permanence of the loss. What if it was their fault? Could I have done something differently? What if it was my partner's fault, but I can't blame that person because they never did anything wrong. But what happened? Pathological grief can make you unable to bear the ending of relationships, and you hold on too long. Sometimes when you see or you feel a relationship starting to end, you get more needy because you're anticipating a loss, but you're not allowing yourself to consciously listen to what your body's trying to tell you. What if your grief is normal? What if you've had a lot of other terrible losses in your life that you couldn't control from childhood or on?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the feelings of powerlessness are not just from this loss. Maybe they go all the way back to childhood for you. Maybe what I would like people to understand is that all grief is felt in the same place in the body. It's about at your throat and above your heart. That's where you feel grief. It feels like a broken heart. That's where it feels. And when you begin to grieve, the body opens up to all the other griefs that you haven't grieved all the way clearly. So sometimes you're also grieving for other things you've lost, other relationships, other situations where you felt hopeless and couldn't control the outcome. So you have to, in fact, absolutely say, what else am I grieving for beside this? Maybe my grief is not pathological. And again, as I said earlier, always be careful to not make your sorrow become a substitute for the relationship. Because if you do, you will grieve and grieve and grieve and grieve until you can pull out of that. It can last years. It can last years and steal love from your life. The last one was wondering if you were in a one-way fantasy love attachment all along. Maybe you made this whole thing up. Maybe you're just a hopeless romantic. Maybe the person went along with you because they loved what you gave them, they enjoyed the relationship, but they were never, ever as attached as you were to this relationship being forever. So they let you run all the rules. They let you make all the promises, and they just agreed. They just accepted. They just looked like they were there, but maybe it was you. That's from childhood for all on. You created this beautiful Disneyland, gorgeous thing all by yourself. You begin to doubt that. And if you do that, you will ignore signs that your partner maybe isn't as attached to you as you are to your partner. You'll ignore those signs. And then what happens is that as that person is gone, you begin to realize that you've been in it pretty much alone from the very beginning, and you made it happen. You feel stupid. You feel embarrassed. You feel humiliated. You feel humiliated.
Mm-hmm.
As I told you at the beginning of the podcast, when people feel humiliated like that, they sometimes want revenge in some way. They will drive by the people's houses. They will call their work and pretend there's somebody else. As I said, they'll go to psychics. They'll get love potions. They'll do anything to try to understand this. Was I fooled? Was I an idiot? They just feel horrible, and they sometimes resort to all kinds of kind of outside and odd things to do just to stop the pain. But that sense of, was I really ever in it with somebody who was in it as much as I was, or did I make that whole thing up? It's very, very painful when people start to feel that way. Sometimes people will actually exaggerate those fantasies to stem off the forever lost pain. But if you're a helpless romantic, you will not pay attention to facts. You'll pay attention to promises, wishes, possibilities, maybes, and you'll give much more credit to the things that are beautiful in a relationship than you will pay attention to the things that aren't working, because you're determined to make that fantasy maintain itself. So when it breaks everything in you. If you are experiencing pathological grief, please don't think you're crazy and don't judge yourself harshly. It's a terrible thing to go through. It's a human frailty to love too much. No one has ever escaped being left behind. You're really not alone. And you need to reach out. You need to reach out to people, to friends, to maybe professional people to help you get through this. Because as I said a little earlier, staying locked into this impossible, so non-solvable issue that's tearing you apart every single day, steals life from you, steals your heart from you, steals the potential for moving on. So that's what this is about. Holding on when you have to let go. You can't do it by yourself. You have to reach out with somebody to help you. Does that make sense to you? Do you understand that? Have you?
So, Dr. Andy, on the eggs in your one basket, that's people that don't really have any, I don't know, say options, but they're just too dependent on that person, right?
Yes. Well, more. Yes, they are dependent, but they are dependent because they want to be. They want to only be with that person. They're enmeshed in that relationship. They grow out of each other like tumors. You see this a lot in younger kids, and they very intensely love each other when they're young. But I've also seen it in older people. Everywhere they go, they can't go anywhere without each other. They're like a four-legged little blob. They just do everything together. And they put everybody else aside. I've seen people walk away from families and children, and just they meet the love of their lives and they're gone. So now all you have is one another, and it may be ecstasy, may be magnificent, but if that person leaves, I mean, it's understandable if they die, and you can see widows or widowers who die a month after the person they're with dies of a broken heart. There's actually a medical term for it because they are that much enmeshed.
I heard about that.
Oh yes, they're enmeshed. But when you're enmeshed like that, and then all of a sudden that person disappears out of your life, and especially for somebody else, you have nothing. You have nothing. You have invested everything you have in that relationship. And now where do you go for support, for people to understand, for people to care? There's nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always very, very concerned about these types of relationships because they're unnatural, because people need family, people need community, people need friends, people need other interests and hobbies and things they do to bring back to a relationship, to innovate it, to make it feel more exciting. And they lock into only each other. They glue together. They're like romantic Siamese twins. And when you pull one apart, that person is literally emotionally bleeding to death. So those are the reasons, or the reasons why people actually end up in pathological grief. But as I said earlier, you can grow out of it, but very rarely can you do that by yourself because you keep reinforcing that pain, because the pain, as I said, has replaced the person who's left you. So if you let go of the pain, you let go of everything. So you keep revisiting.
Right.
Revisiting.
Now, can it also be good to have this commitment? Like, I can't stop loving you in a good way.
Well, when you love somebody deeply and they love you deeply, you start off with just each other, of course, but then you add these people to the rest of your life. You add them to friends, you add them to family, you have children, you have places you go or hobbies that you may do differently but bring to each other. You still always hold the nexus of that wonderful commitment to one another, but it can't happen in isolation. It just can't, because if you lose that person, just think about doing that and having that person die. You can't love again. You're completely lost because you haven't developed all the rest of you everywhere else, all the other dimensions of you. There is never one relationship that should ever or can ever fulfill everything you need. Humans are just not built that way. But sometimes, a person meets the love of his or her life, and they give up everything for that. Or they'll do lovers leap and they'll die together if one of them is going to die. That's what beauty is made up of in literature and media, but it's not common. And watching my people suffer through these losses they can't get past, it's so sad to watch. They cry and cry, or they'll if they're more male in their energy, they'll hit pillows, or they'll smash things, or they'll just don't want to do anything, give up every joy that they've looked forward to. They let go of their dreams. They're just stuck. They're immobilized in anguish. So it's one of the saddest things I have to talk about, But the positive and the good news is you can grow out of it. You can, but usually not by yourself.
So it looks like we're running out of time here. This was a really interesting topic. We can go on forever.
Absolutely.
Like all the this could be an hour-long show,
I
actually.
could give you story after story after story after story.
Maybe we'll do that one time. We'll just have like a long talk show podcast,
It's been
longer than usual, because this is just not giving justice. It's
I
20
think,
minute. Yeah, it's just like so many good.
I've written 260 articles for Psychology Today over the last decade or so. You can get to all of them on a site. It's called relationshipsactually.org, and they're sorted out by subject. You can also listen to my other podcasts, and you can also get a hold of me on my website, Randi Gunther, one word, lowercase, Randi with an I, at Randi Gunther at Cox.net. And love to hear if you'd like me to talk about a particular subject. I would love to support you in that, and just get a hold of me. I'm very available.
Thanks, Dr. Andy. Until next week when we do our podcast, and have a great.
Thank you, Ryan.